Hello, and welcome to another Momentus, another psychotic episode, another Momentus session. I'm Charlie, head tinkerer, poodle shaver here at Momentus. We've got everybody filing in now. Hello, hello. Look at that. All of you smiling faces. Chat, I believe, should be turned on by now. We'd love to hear from you in the chat. Light up that chat where you're from, how you're doing. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody around the world. Okay, a few quick things before we get started with Jake. We're gonna have some fun today. So the Q&A box is open. If you have questions throughout the class, use that Q&A box. We're gonna get into it today. So on a topic that I love to hear about from professionals and inspiring figures. So we're gonna be learning about filmmaking and movie making. So this is gonna be a lot of fun. A quick note, if you have a meet and greet, just stick right here in the Zoom. We'll hold meet and greets after class is finished. If you'd like to join us live, if you'd like to join Jake live here, and you have a working camera and mic, just use the raise hand feature. Make sure that you have a question or a relevant comment, not a quement. And make sure you join us for the next class, which is on September 7th. We also have that as well. Hello, everybody. Yay, look at all these people coming in. Netherlands, West Virginia, West Virginia is like the Netherlands of America. We're going to be watching Jake's film today and getting into it. Jake is a man with, at least that I could count, and I can't count that high, at least 40 professional credits in his entertainment industry career. He has more hyphens in his resume than Baconian pyramidological cryptographic, spiritualist, theosophical, which is the world's largest hyphenated word. And today we're in for a treat because this is Jake's first and his exclusive filmmaking class. So we're gonna have some fun. So be ready for chaos. It will ensue. Why don't we bring Jake in now, shall we? Let's get Jake here. Jake, are you with us? You're needed on set.
Sorry, I just put my pants back on.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I was told I'd have time to put my pants back on before I went live. We're good.
Second time this has happened in a week, Jake. Like, you're not the first and not the last, I'm sure, to get their pants.
All that matters is the pants got on in time.
Well, you're ready on set, and that's all we care about.
All right.
How are you doing, Jake?
I am fantastic. How are you, Charlie?
I'm well. I am severely depleted of electrolytes, but I'm good.
Why?
Well, it's warm. It's warm in the Texas region. I don't know.
You have to have.
See, there you go.
Beverages at all times.
You're double fisting it today.
Vodka and mystery drink.
One to make you bigger, one to make you smaller.
This is actually coffee, and I just drank it because I thought it was my water. That was a surprise.
Love that for you.
That's a movie. That's an acting trick, right?
Is that an acting trick?
Yeah, you have to drink any beverage and expect it to be water. That way, if you're surprised, the surprise is genuine.
You make choices. Yeah, cool. Okay. Do you want to share any other acting tips while you're at it? That sounds really helpful.
Yeah.
What's the weirdest thing you've done to prepare for a moment or a scene? Let's go there. Let's just go right there.
The weirdest thing I've done to prepare for
doing jumping jacks, you screaming. What do we got?
Oh God, we are recording this, so I won't get them because they're actually in a drawer over there. I have the sexiest little underwear. I called them my my sexy boy underwear. Charlie, it's like
you're not gonna get them right now, are you?
It's like no, I'm not.
Okay,
but they're right over there in the drawer. Not that I wear them. Not that's just where they are. They're my sexy boy underwear, and they're like 2 pieces of string and like a coffee filter. And I had to do a shower scene in a film and or something. And so I walked into my trailer and those were just hanging in there. And I don't even think I wore them in the movie, but I did take them home. Because why wouldn't you take home a pair of free sexy boy underwear?
Sure, why not? Does it say "sexy boy" on the tag?
No, no, that's just what I that's how I felt when I put them on for fun. And I felt like a real sexy boy.
Yeah.
And so they became my sexy boy underwear. And now they're just for anniversaries and special occasions.
Yeah, the zoo, whatever. Okay. I mean, I don't know where we go from here, but you do have a film. I did want to say, let's talk about the film that we're going to be seeing today.
Right.
This is sort of the opening volley in learning about filmmaking in general. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how this film came to be?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm assuming most people here have heard this spiel many, many times, but in case you haven't, when we were doing the very, very last episode of a little show called Supernatural, it was during COVID times, and we had to quarantine for 2 weeks in Vancouver. And I started out trying. The truth is, I started out making like a daily vlog because I thought like maybe if I talked about like I had like Nike push-up bars and stuff like that, if I started tagging them, then maybe I would get like free stuff sent to me.
Sure.
It didn't happen. Also, I only lasted on like 2 days of doing that. I was like, I'm not this guy. So then I was like, well, I've already started filming. And I was like, what if I just turn this into something? And that's when I started writing. And I didn't write it like I normally write a screenplay. I really just started breaking down days and like bullet points. Like, okay, if I'm going to do this for like 12 more days, what would I do? What would I have to build out to like slow roll a scary movie that nobody knows is a scary movie that just looks like a daily video blog? And so I started kind of mapping out what that would look like. And I did a test shot on one of the days. And I sort of like, because I had my computer and I had a tripod with me in case I had to do self tapes. And so like I had the makings of what I needed to do that. So I filmed one scene and put it together. Okay. And it's funny because it's like it's in the middle of the movie. And so it drives me nuts because you can tell like slightly by the end of it, my beard has grown a little bit, my hair's grown a little bit, but there's this one pocket where it's like clearly day two. But you don't really notice it, I think, if you're just watching it one time through. So I filmed that and I was like, that was really, really fun. Really, really, I think I can build this out. So then I just started building it out and sort of wrote and filmed and edited, and I did all the key art and all the music, everything. My little studio apartment was like a little independent film studio for that couple weeks. And I like shot the whole thing and did all that, packaged it, did all like the social media stuff. And like in about a week and a couple of days. And so then the rest of my time in quarantine was just playing PlayStation and following people online, seeing what they were saying and like, you know, sort of rolling this thing out. And then at the end of all that, like months later, I was like, I wonder if I could cut that together and make it a cohesive short film. So then I did that. And I was like, oh, this cuts like somewhat of a short film. And then we started doing these live at conventions and started getting a lot of feedback. And when you watch something you make with an audience, boy, does it hit different and really scary. But I learned stuff about the film and started doing edits on that. And so like what we watch now at the Jake and Chills in person is different. Like what we're going to watch today is different than where it started, just because I kind of got to watch it with people and feel the rhythms of it. And even now, I still watch it and I'm like, oh, I fixed that. But that bitch is picture locked. We ain't, you know.
It's done and dusted.
The prints are made.
Yeah. The awards have been sent out already.
Yeah. I mean, you can't just keep, you know.
Well, it's also a great lesson in the looking at a challenge as an opportunity. I know for most of us, quarantine was like a hard little moment, or you just want to get to work and you're separated from your family and you're staying busy. I think great lesson too about like keeping creative when.
Listen, don't lock me in a room with my hobbies. I'm fine. Like,
yeah.
I'm pretty independent. I'm pretty much a bit of a loner as it is, and like. If you lock me in a room with the guitar and some stuff to shoot and some stuff to write, like I'll be good. I'll be good for a while. Like that 2 weeks ended, I was ready to get out, but I was also like, pretty sweet.
Pretty great.
It's pretty sweet. Yeah.
I'm the opposite. I start to weep uncontrollably. Don't leave me alone. Is what I'm saying.
Leave me alone.
Don't leave me alone. Well, we're gonna watch the film.
Great.
Love it if you all can use the Q&A box to ask questions about the film or the process or anything of Jake. about creativity or any of that. Um, Emily's asking, can I yell in here? Is that allowed? Is it allowed, Jake, that Emily yells?
I don't give a shit what Emily does. She's
Great.
gonna pass.
Okay. You want to be a pest, Emily? Go ahead. You've
Wait, like
got.
she would like wait like through the audio?
I don't know. If she hacks the audio, we're all screwed, I guess. Okay.
Is
Um,
Emily Emmy? Who are we dealing with here?
it's Emmy. Yeah, it's Emmy. I'll be yelling in the chat box. Okay.
Great, great.
Yeah.
Expect
Perfect.
nothing less.
Great. Well, we're gonna watch the film. So stay tuned. And then right after, just fill up the Q&A as we go. Use that chat. Heckle Jake, whatever feels natural.
I'll keep the chat open. Oh, that's nice. See, now,
Mr. Jake Abel. Oh, and see, now I feel like we've really finished.
right? The disclaimer.
Okay. Yep. Stay spooky. Got it.
But now we're like, all right.
There it is. Okay. Now, and we're clear.
We're clear.
Okay. Okay. I have so many questions.
The unions will be grateful. Thank you.
I have so many questions. We have questions coming in the Q&A now as well. Also, titles looked little like something else, Jake.
I know that's new. That's never been brought up in the before. So,
okay. Well, let me get a couple of my questions out of the way. First of all, you filmed out of order. How do you keep the story straight as a writer, as an actor, as a director? How does that work for you?
Well, again, like this was a sort of an experimentation all of its own. It's not the normal way I work.
Yeah.
So basically, it was coming up with a broad story, and I didn't have the ending even while I was shooting.
Yeah.
Which, fun fact, neither did they have it when they were filming a little movie called Casablanca. They also didn't know their ending. So just a little fun fact. That's how we're kind of similar. So I just started filming like what I thought would be good days to I would think of like bits or gags or whatever I could do, and then start weaving them in. And then because I would want to post them at certain times of the day, that's when I would didn't want to post at night. So that's why I would do flashbacks, you want to see what I did last night or whatever. And because of engagement.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And so it was more about once I kind of bulleted out the main arc. And then when it came to the end, once I hit upon that, I wanted to incorporate every single sort of practical effect in one go. That became the challenge. Where it was every practical effect, whether it was the curtains, the doors, the cabinets, all of that stuff. I wanted to do it all in one shot. Yeah. And that became the next challenge was I really didn't think I was going to be able to pull it off. And I almost did ask Rob to come down and help me. But I knew that for this to work, it had to be done by myself. And also my wife told me that was illegal and that I probably shouldn't do that.
That's another point. Yeah.
So that's
that's okay.
That was a good call.
Yeah. Actually, Emmy asks, I believe it's Emmy.
What?
How did you get all the doors open at once?
Fishing string.
Sorry,
I'm really good. It turns out I'm really good with levies and pulleys. And so a lot of that stuff was used with fishing. I Instacarted fishing wire, and I taped them around the different doors and to the point where I could pull a string. And because of the way they were sort of wrapped around stuff, various things in the room, they would all swing open at once. It was just a pulley system. Yeah.
So I think it's Sky. So I'm terrible at writing. I can't do it for my life. And I was wanting to know if you have some tips on screenwriting or outlining or something along those lines. Thank you.
I mean, I think you should read all of the books.
Yeah.
Right. The
every
Robert
book.
The Robert McKee, every book ever. And once you've done that, then you can start your writing journey. But I would say start read all of the books, and those books being Robert McKee's story, Sid Field's screenplay, or is it his Save the Cat? Save the Cat is one just read it and then forget about it. and like wired for story. So like there's like a group of like 5 to 7 books on writing that I think are really popular.
Yeah.
And they're a great place to start because I think it's important to learn the rules. That way you can break them properly. And that's the goal, I think, for any writer, is to like understand where you come from, understand what the work that others before you have put in. That way you can sort of tweak those rules and don't have to follow the exact formula. And then the other step of that is practice. I've written 13 screenplays and none of them are good enough to film yet, as far as I'm concerned. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not a writer by trade. But I enjoy writing and I enjoy coming up with stories. So like, it doesn't matter. And eventually one of them will be the one that's good enough to make, hopefully. And, but like, take heart and that everyone sucks at writing, even good writers.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, you have to have patience and tenacity, and like, you got to find a story that won't leave you alone. And I have stories that have been in my brain for a decade now, and I'm still trying to break them, but they don't leave. And so I know they're important. And good things that are, I think, that are worthy are the ones that do take time. That's why you hear so many stories about, whether it's an award-winning film or whatever, they're like, this story, this was a 10-year journey. This was a 15-year journey for this story. And it doesn't mean that they sucked for 15 years or, you know, it's just that like, you're trying to tell human tales and people are complex.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be predictable. And sometimes that takes time. So
there's been a number of questions also about inspiration, the Shining, Blair Witch, Paris Hilton's sex tape. Like what really brought you to this sort of like POV project?
For this in particular? I love practical effect horror films.
Totally.
I love horror films that like are handcrafted. And I just think it's so fun. I think I love effects that are in camera and not done afterwards. And so I did a film called Malignant with James Wan. And
yeah,
when it was sort of brought to me, they were like, James is going to go back to sort of like his roots of doing practical horror films. Because I love the Insidious films, and I like his horror stuff is incredible, and they use a lot of practical effects mostly. But he got into bigger films and was using a lot of CGI and whatever. So I was like, man, that's a dream. The rest of the movie that I'm not in didn't end up being that. But what I filmed, I basically got to do a short film within this feature film with James Wan doing only practical effects. We didn't have a single non-practical effect. And the thing, I think, what surprises people the most about genre people or people like in the horror business is like how undark they are, right? It's like, it's the comedians that are dark.
Yeah, like,
comedians that like, I don't want to fucking be around. Horror people are the nicest, sweetest, like balls of light that just happen to play in a playground of like death, destruction, and decay. So James Wan, he has the reputation of being the nicest man in Hollywood. And I heard it before I worked with him from people that just like, you know, were at a party with him or whatever. And it got to the point where I was like, there's no way this guy's as nice as everyone's saying. Like, there's just no way. Turns out he is. Like, he's just a good dude. And so getting to play in that playground of this like darkness with the best people, there's an effect in that movie there's a couple of effects. One didn't make the film, and it was my favorite effect, but it didn't make the film. My second one did make the film, and I don't want to spoil it if anyone hasn't seen it, but there's in my bit, there's someone sitting on a couch, and then they kind of disappear from the couch. And there's a shot of the couch cushion where there was an indentation from somebody sitting, and it just rises back up because they aren't there anymore. It's this like super cool effect. They attached like steel like wire underneath this cushion. They put like some sort of plate in there, attach it to the inside of the cushion, and had these strings, and they had like one of the, like the big grip, like it's just a big burly dude on set. Like the strings ran under the couch, kind of like I was doing pulley system stuff in Jake and Quarantine, under the couch, and the grip, he's like by me because the camera's on, I have a camera on me, he's on the ground and he's pulling these like steel wires back, so it creates this indentation. And then on action, like he just let go of the tension, and so the couch would just rise because he was letting, and it was like
Genius.
it was so fun. There's the refrigerator door opens, and they had put a big metal pole, cut a hole in the wall, and there was another guy on the other side of the wall just pushing the fridge door open. Like little simple bits of magic. That stuff to me is the most fun because it's forcing you to be creative. I think limitations are really good for artists. If you don't have all the money and all the time in the world, then you're sort of forced to just get down to what you can do and rely on your own bit of craftiness. And I think that's where the gold is spun. So that's kind of where it sort of came from for me, is like the love of making practical effects.
Practical magic, because
It really is.
Magicians use these practical effects to create sort of the illusions, right? And if we can film it, that's so cool.
Yeah, and you can either choose to believe like, oh, like that's real magic, or you can say like, okay, magic doesn't exist. This is something very clever, and then it becomes a fun game to sort of be like, how did you do that? I watch movies all the time, even if it's just a camera shot or something. We were watching something, we were watching Sandlot. This isn't like about that, but like the dog, when Benny the Jet's in the pickle with Hercules and they're running through all the stuff and they're running through the alley and they have this POV of the dog and they're just like hitting the trash cans with the camera. Right. And you can't do that. You can't do that. You'll smash your lens, you'll smash the matte box. So I was like, because we have family in town. I was like, how do they do that? I was like, they must have built a metal rig. I'm trying to figure out, like, they definitely built a metal rig or something that went around the matte box so they could just ram the camera through trash cans. And it's like, it's anytime, like I've been on films where we've used fish tanks, a movie that was called Against the Sun, and we were like on water the whole movie. And it was it was an independent film. And so we couldn't afford the underwater cameras for more than like the 2 days that we shot them on the intense stuff. So for just scene work, they just got a fish tank and they like half submerge it with weights, put the camera on there, and suddenly the water line is now right in front of your lens. And it's just sitting in literally a glass fish tank. And it's that shit that just like makes me so excited to be on a film set. Because the big rigs and the big expensive stuff on a studio film are cool, no doubt.
Really?
But even on those big films, you'll still see guys bust out just like old school practical things to get a shot.
Choreography, like do you remember Children of Men? There's like a single camera shot. Do you remember that shit? They literally showed, I think, in the DVD commentary, which you just got here, the rig in the car about how they were pulling seats back, moving around, and it's like a sort of around the car, inside the car. Epic.
And nowadays they just CGI that in some way, but like to actually do it, like I don't know, it's more fun too. Like even if an audience doesn't sit there and go like, and they shouldn't go, wow, what a great winner. But like, if you've got the time, you got the money and whatever, and you got the people, it's like everyone gets so involved in that kind of thing on set, you know, like you pull that off, everyone feels a sense of accomplishment. And so I always think it's a worthy goal to chase. And I think people can feel it. I think that's why like certain horror films do better than others. The ones that like are really handmade by people and that are clever. Wow, you feel it. You feel it as an audience member. And I think that's important.
So getting back into the story element, because we have class 2 to sort of dive deeper on this, and I can't wait, because I feel like then we can spend the entire time unpacking the production side. But we have a couple of questions, and somebody we're going to bring on in a second who has a question. But I think it's Aline or Alina. I was wondering, if you get an idea for a project, how do you begin putting the idea into an actual concept? Which also relates into this, did something in the room spark the idea, or did you have this idea and then try to find things that you could create in the room?
Yeah, I think once I filmed that first thing of like, oh, there's a scratching and a tapping, then because I was living in the space, then I started looking, it's exactly right. I started looking around the space saying, okay, and that's another thing, talk about limitations. I didn't have a whole spooky house that I could go in. It was a studio apartment in downtown Vancouver.
Pretty bright and airy,
Yeah, and so like luckily they had blackout curtains, and I was able to do day for night with those. I could close those and pretend it was nighttime. I filmed all of that during the day. Um, and so yeah, like the curtains closing, I'm like, oh, I could do that with my little pulley system. Um, and the doors, the cabinets opening, yeah, I just started to look around and use every square inch of that space that I had. The closets are scary. Closets are always creepy. Like I can do a gag there. And like that, some of that would come up on the fly. I'd be like, oh, there's a broom in here. I could say that is what push it open, you know? It was like, it was a great way to make a film. And I encourage people to do it because, you know, the person who said that they're not a good writer, it sort of allows you to get around that in order to make something. You know what I mean? Like instead of sitting there going and not making anything because you're like, well, my script isn't good. Like, who gives a shit? Like if you sometimes if you just jump in and you start to make something that can find it, and even if that thing isn't seen by anybody, you've made something that's made you better. You've learned something from it, hopefully, and that'll get you closer to the things that you want. And then as far as like developing ideas, your notes application on your phone. I use this every single day. This is one of my stories that I've been writing for a couple of years, right?
Wow.
Like, right? Every day I come up with something. I have that and I have Word documents. And the thing I do, and I don't know if anyone else does this, uh, if I have an idea, during all my development phase, I'll go in and I'll make a bold heading. So I'll be like spooky stuff.
Yeah.
I'll put a bullet point. And so for that, I'll do a list of things that could be spooky. Doors open, this opens, that opens. Character things. If I'm like, oh, maybe he does this for a living, I'll title it something short like job or living, and then kind of write about it. And it's just like questions and things. And I'll do that for 50, 100 pages of just like bold headlines with a simple idea and then the questions and the ideas under them. And so I can go back and see the early days of development and be like characters that like that would be important that don't exist anymore, whole plot lines, but it doesn't matter. You can ignore them. And when you know you've hit upon something really great, you can highlight it so your eye catches it. And like, I love that part of it. I love development and just sort of because it's like solving a murder or something because you're like, there's clues here and I have to figure them out and put them together. And that's oftentimes more fun than actually writing, especially certainly more fun than rewriting. But
Just like getting it out, getting it on, getting in.
Yeah. Oh, that discovery. Cause like I'll run that shit in the back, like a computer in the back of my brain all day long. If I'm working on something, like there's processors going on back here thinking about the story. And if I hit upon something, I just go right to my notes if I don't have my computer and I put it in there. And then, yeah, you just like entertain yourself. Just don't be boring, you know?
100%. Elizabeth, hello.
Hi, so I have a question here. So in the Blair Witch Project, going back to what Charlie said, the actors were given an outline instead of a full script. What are the benefits or the downsides of writing an outline as the script and being able to have actors improv versus writing a complete script for a film and having actors go by the script?
I think in order to do the outline approach, that's making a movie with your friends. That isn't making like you have your friends who you know can do characters, whatever. Like you're gonna go do this run and gun guerrilla style yourselves. That's what that can be. If you're going to do something a little more professional, you gotta have a script. With that being said, there's a Robert Redford film called All Is Lost. And it takes place on a boat and there's no dialogue. And it's a very, very fast film. That film was an outline. It was like a 55-page outline. But the director was an established director, a well-known director. And even he wasn't sure it was going to work. I'd seen him speak at a Sundance lab. And he was like, yeah, we didn't know that this was even going to work, but Robert Redford jumped on board and like, we were like, holy shit, we really hope it works. And it did because structurally it was sound, right? It was sound structurally. It could stand up. It had the travel that it needed. But that's a very rare case that works. I know, I feel like the Coen brothers could get away with that. Larry David could get away with that, but Or again, if it's your, because Blair Witch Project was basically that. It was basically friends just making this thing. And you know, maybe your friends are brilliant and it pays off. But yeah, if you're just making something.
It goes back to what you were saying earlier, though, reading Robert McKee or any of these guys is you learn the rules, which is sort of like Picasso, right? He became a fine artist,
right?
His craft,
right?
And then he could violate it. Then he could change it. Then he could start updating it. Then he could outline, fly by the seat of your pants. But it took a long time to get to that point, right?
Yeah, because outlining technically is what you're supposed to do to make sure that your structure is solid before you go into final draft or whatever writing processor you use. Like that's to make sure that like it can be read and you go like that's the story's there now. And I'm someone who jumps to the script too soon sometimes. But like sometimes like once I'll outline, like I'll do my outline, my sort of question sheets. And then once I see the whole film in my head, then I'll just jump in and write. And it's a click. It's like a click. And again, it's not to say that like it's right. Maybe I should spend more time really outlining. But if I hit that juice or something, I'm like, I see it and I'll go. I have my ending. That's very important. Hard to write without an ending. And
lost it.
Unless it's Jake in Quarantine, then you just do whatever the hell you want.
Do whatever you want.
Because for instance, Jake in Quarantine, no script, just like bullet point outline and just me. But like, yeah.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Brandon also asked, and this we'll probably be wrapping it up here. How has your experience as a screenwriter and director, even on something self-produced such as this project, changed your view of your job as an actor? So you see these other parts of the wheel. Mm-hmm. Has it shifted the way you approach acting?
So yeah, I mean, look, I just reread Robert McKee's story on audio. So I've been doing a lot of audiobooks because I got 2 kids and it's hard to sit down and read. I've been doing this for 20 years. I'm listening right now to Producer, which is a book on producing. I just read like, let me put my Audible here. I went on a tear and I was buying a bunch of books because Directing Actors is a book I slept on for 20 years. It was written by Judith Weston. I've known about this book for 20 years and I've just kind of was like, I don't need to know how directors are fucking with me. And then I read it and was like, this is so full of amazing stuff. A long time ago in a cutting room far, far away was written by Paul Hirsch, who was the editor of Star Wars, among like a bunch of other amazing stuff. His book is incredible. The reason it's so great to especially read memoirs like that, William Goldman's Adventures in the Screen Trade. Absolutely have to read it. Sidney Lumet's Making Movies. You have to read these books if you're interested. Even if you don't want to make movies, if you're just interested in this world, it's so fascinating for me because it's so important to hear about people failing. It's so important to hear about people who are successful fail because they all tell their stories about the roadblocks that they've hit, and you get the perspective of their point of view of the industry. Ever since I've started, like to me, like being on a film set is like Disneyland, and you have all these departments of all these craftsmen, and I have taken advantage of that every single shoot. I mean, like I've got to push around dollies and like work cameras, and just because I'm interested and I talk to people on set. And honestly, most actors don't do that, and that's fine. Most like maybe I'd be a better actor if I wasn't so interested in so many other things. But like, so I feel like I've learned a lot about why actors have bad behavior based on just understanding other parts of the business and the sort of like what it's like to be on a film set. And I like to think that it's in preparation for me to hopefully be making my own films, with being in them and with having actors in them. And, but I'm a big proponent for, like Christine Vachon, Shooting to Kill is a great book on producing. Like I'm obsessed. It's a sickness. And like, I would read all of them, read all the books. Because it will. That perspective I think is invaluable.
And what I hear you saying too is, and this we'll wrap it out here, but by reading a lot of different sources of process and experience and failure, you also sort of democratize the fact that it isn't one way of doing things. You know, like you skip the script. Like I know some people go to script to find what happens, and then the rewriting process is intense. Other people get really organized. They have like all these bells and whistles of like beat and outline and whatever. What I hear you saying too, for story's sake, is find your process for your story, impelled by what you are passionate about and what resources you have around you to work within the limitation, and then just go create and create and create in quarantine yourself.
Yeah. I'll give like one last anecdote. This was a big one for me, was Ethan Hawke. Big fan of Ethan Hawke, and I've always been a big fan of his, not just because I think he's a great actor, but he is a writer and he's a director, and he's written and directed his own movies. He's a musician. He's an author. He's a documentarian. Like, he talk about a polyhyphenate, right? He's done it all. And so I've always kind of looked up to him for that. And then years ago, I got the opportunity to work with him in a film called Good Kill. And one thing I learned from him, like he didn't like, this was just my observation, just sort of being with him, was like, there's no magic to it. Like, there was this veil that was sort of lifted. Like, you sort of think sometimes people are just touched, and some people are really blessed or really lucky or whatever it is. And you're like, well, what are you gonna do? But with him, what I found was, like, I didn't find him to be any more intelligent or any more, like, he didn't have an aura about him. Ethan is a regular fucking dude who's super interested in things. And I think that's why I realized, be interested. And that's an old acting axiom. You become interesting when you become interested, right? Like, we love to watch people doing behavior they're absorbed in. They become very, very interesting. And Ethan is that way. He's very interested in things, and he gives himself creative freedom to do whatever he's interested in, right? And so, like, you know, he's playing guitar and he's singing. His voice is not a trained voice, but it fucking works, because he just, like, he feels that shit, and he's not trying to sing good. He's trying to tell the story in a song. And it's like, that's what makes him a great artist. And it gave me a bit of just like breathing room to be like, all of this is attainable. Everything you want is attainable. As in to say, like, you know, like, you just got, if you're interested, then do it for the being interested sake, and anything that happens around that is kind of out of your control. But, like, you know, if something interests you, just follow it. And I think that's hard now, because people can be so cynical, especially online. And, like, you know, if anyone's earnest about anything, you're at risk of being made fun of or bullied for wearing socks. So anyway, sometimes bullying worse. But I think to be sort of passionate about something, I see the chat blown up. To be passionate about something, it can be nerve-wracking, because you can be made fun of or whatever. I say, fuck that and fuck them, and be interested and create your shit, and, like, you know, just do it.
Okay. Hashtag sponsored, hashtag partner, hashtag ad, hashtag.
You can't write that. See, some of you just
got the money, right? No, that's copyrighted, I think, though. You just copyrighted. Well, thank you, Jake. It's so great to hear. I mean, in a world sort of focused on youth and fame, to talk about journey person, craftsmanship. It's refreshing, because maybe it's just about putting the bricks in the wall as much as you can. It's totally.
Yeah, but if you're chasing fame or chasing whatever, like, I mean, you're probably going to be pretty disappointed when you find it. You're either going to be disappointed if you don't find it, and if you do find it, you might be a little disappointed too, because you're like, oh, there's still a big empty hole in my heart.
Thank God I never achieved fame.
Yes. But, like, you know, and, like, everyone's got their motivating factors, and everyone, then, you know, like, you know, but I think it always comes down to the work, and that's just my philosophy. Is it just comes down to, like, the work, and the shit that's out of your control, you got to let it be out of your control, and it's hard.
Yeah,
you know?
tell these stories, get them on there for sure.
You got to compete with yourself every day, you know, like, to be the best version. Anyway, super inspirational stuff.
Well,
right?
so people are asking for a book list. We'll chat about that. Come to the
Great.
next
Would love
class
to.
and we'll give you the book list. How about that? We're gonna
That's a
hold
good
it on.
idea. We'll do.
And we're gonna move on to our meet and greets now. So if you have a meet and greet ticket, just stick around here. If you don't, I'm going to eject you from the vehicle at full speed. Please keep your hands and arms in the vehicle.
Bye.